So I'm wearing a badass leather jacket for a change.
You look badass too.
So I decided, we're going to be up close and personal. Okay, so we haven't advertised this at all, but here we are. This is a round table with some badass chicks from the other weekend. And I've got Laura Eisenhower and Jen Eason and Dr. Sharnael Sehon and myself, Keryy Cassidy, and we're all here to do a roundtable to talk about what's going on. And so, it's great to be here, and I hope that people will be able to watch it and such. So I never broadcasted like this over Facebook. I'm banned on both the YouTube channels, so that's why we're trying it this way. And then I'm also recording it, so if it doesn't work, I will put it up on, Vimeo. BitChute isn't working for me now. I don't know why, and so on. But and everyone else will put it up as well. So welcome. And I just thought we would talk about, I guess maybe we should introduce ourselves. I always assume everyone knows who we are. If it's on Facebook, they do, but it's going to go out to the general public as well. So I'm Keryy Cassidy. I'm an investigative reporter, documentary filmmaker. I've been taking testimony from whistleblowers for the past 16 years and have a huge YouTube following and channel. And that has been there for about 15 years. So that's kind of cool. But I am always on the verge of losing it lately because of censorship. So that's what's going on with me. And I'm also an author and producer and whatever. So Jen, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Jennifer Eason, and I am a nurse by trade as well as a barber. And I basically call myself a light worker these days. So that's what I'm doing, super spreading light.
All right. And let's see, Sharnael, Dr. Sharnael.
Hey guys, so excited to see you guys. I love you so much.
Love you.
Thanks, Keryy, for having us and putting this together. I'm a naturopathic doctor and was a conference speaker for 20 years until all this stuff happened. Was on TV for 2.5 years doing shows and kind of moved everything over to social media. And light worker, truther, love the truth, love, and love health, mind, body, spirit. And, in the sense of all of this, this is an awesome time for us to have the opportunity to really be truth in action, be love in action with every choice that we make, with everything we're doing with our bodies, with our lives, with our families, so, I'm so happy. I just love all three of you guys so much. And I'm so honored to work with you. And I'm just so thankful for you giving me sanity every day of my life. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It's mutual.
Okay.
Yeah, right back at you.
Laura.
Yeah, my name's Laura Eisenhower, and I use the word global alchemist, and it's just because I really feel that we're changing the lead of this human experience into gold. It's really just about discovering who we truly are, and to me that's kind of where it's at, in order to step away from social engineering agendas, mind control, and also all the secrecy. So I've been a researcher. As far as what I do on a daily basis, I do medical and intuitive astrology, and I've been a speaker for about 10 years, and I've gotten to travel the world sharing all sorts of stuff. I'm the great granddaughter of President Eisenhower, or former President Eisenhower, and I work or seek to reveal exopolitical information about his administration that has largely been held in secrecy. But my focus on, as far as topics and just things that are just a part of my own personal mission, I go a lot into health, exopolitics, alchemy, metaphysics, and galactic history. And my goal and hope is to help to free us from the 3D holographic time loop, false archonic systems, and military industrial complex, which is multi-leveled, and expose hidden agendas so we can take our power back and return to the totality of our divine powers, and really understand what is available so we can begin to be inspired instead of just in fear and confusion all the time. And just like you guys, I do as many interviews as I possibly can with interesting people, and I see your brilliant videos and I follow you guys, and it's an honor and a thrill to just like share in this space with all of you. So I love you guys. Thanks for having me.
Love you too.
Love you too. Okay, so and love you, audience, for supporting us all these years and keeping us going, because it's really because of you that we do what we do, and we couldn't do without you. So this is going to be, I just jotted down some various things that I thought we could touch on, and I wanted to address those things myself, and I think we could go around the circle on all these different issues. So first and foremost, I know this is going to be a little of a strange question, but I'm going to ask the group, is there anything new that you know about that's come out lately that people should perhaps be aware of? I do keep a Telegram channel. I think some of the rest of you do as well. And I post daily on there all kinds of news that I think is worth seeing, as well as things that I may not agree with, but I think you need to know about. And then I also put some intel there. I've been getting some intel lately, I'll give my first thing as far as the new stuff. What new I have is that apparently there's some negotiations going on behind the scenes with regard to the new financial system. And I have been approached by a few people who want to get word to the Trump team. However, I'm having trouble doing that because of delays in certain ways and shapes and forms. So, but it is interesting to note that there's a movement out there, not just to support Trump and his team, which is vital, of course, but also to support this effort, which everyone kind of feels, but a lot of people aren't necessarily invited to be part of, which is this supposed financial reset. And for some people say it's a very negative thing, some people say it's a very positive thing, and it keeps flipping back and forth depending on who you listen to. I think that is purposeful, that we don't have a straight sort of story on it. And I for one, want to say that I have at least gotten some important information in that regard. So this is just a shout out to get back to me, people out there in the Trump team. And then I do want to say that I have another item, but I want to go around the circle because I want to keep going around. So try to make your answers kind of short and succinct, so it's not, too much of a lecture. And then we'll come back because I have some more things that I want to touch on as well. So going over to Jen. Jen, what do you have?
Well, in terms of newer intel, I would say that I'm hearing more about where we are in the sense of getting back to our original natural law and sovereignty, and just, kind of not any dates or anything like that, but it's more so how it all fits in, including the quantum financial reset, I would say. I know there's a difference, and there's a darker, nefarious one, and these are the, forces that are opposing each other. So from what I'm hearing, everything is on target for us to move into our quantum financial system and not their reset. So I know that they have no chance in terms of, I think they have just missed too many of the marks on the other side. They have had to rush their agenda up a whole lot, and it's creating a lot of mistakes on their part, I'll say. So that's the intel that I have.
Okay. Dr. Sharnael.
Yeah, so I'm hearing the same thing, actually. And to be clear for the audience, when these guys are talking, or when anybody's talking about the dark side versus the light side, for those who don't understand what we're saying, maybe you do, but just for the sake of maybe somebody doesn't. Light meaning this is supposed to have been what was happening over the years historically, within a jubilee, or like you let the land rest every 7 years, you don't plant, you make preparations for all of that, so there is that time of rest to let, your body rest, to let the land rest, to, get back, just to kind of reset, if you want to use that word. I don't, there's different ways, but, and we haven't had it. They stopped it years ago, and they've not implemented that in however long. And the reason why it could be good, because that would be good for everybody to get a new do-over and start over. But the dark side could take that and make it look like it's appealing and, shut down everything. So we're almost like in a position we kind of have to do it, or we're in trouble, because people are losing businesses and lifestyle and what have you. And they're, but it could be used against us, where it's like, okay, well, we'll give you this check if you do this, whatever. If you want to do code, the vaccine or whatever, or we'll give you this amount of money if you do the vaccine, or you get, there's all these stipulations, in other words, of taking the AI virus software upgrade operational system into your physical body, mixed with the fetal tissue to support having something happen and make sure you get the boosters. So there's the 4 RNA proteins that support it. And next thing you know, there's a zombie apocalypse or something, or whatever they decide with the push of a button to get people to do whatever they want to do. And then, there's not going to be any control over that. They're going to be the ones in control of that. And anyone who doesn't take all of that is going to be at the mercy of whatever. So, that's where it could be good or bad. And I hadn't heard anything about what Jen is saying. I think that would be great if there's missing marks and not getting the window. Yay, I hope that's true. I hadn't personally heard that. I hope that that's the truth, and I love that would be the truth. And I would love to have something in the positive of a divine, godly, beautiful, loving, second chance reset. But I am not excited, obviously, about camps or forced anything against anybody's physical body, to get to shop or drive a car or go travel anywhere. Like, that's, to me, not something that I would be on board with, nor would anyone, I don't think, except for somebody who's on the other side. So as far as new intel, I can tell you that after we met up in Vegas, there's a lot more, definitely a lot more communication with everybody that we talked to. Seeing so much fruit of that, of everyone just, seeing and meeting in real life, versus this year of us all talking on Zooms like this, which has been amazing. But it's also like cool to see someone 3D, 5D, 4D, whatever we are. So that was fun. And I'm just seeing with the cross-pollination, so much multiplication, so much amplification, so much, opportunity there for us to be strategic. Because I think that's one thing that I hope that the Trump team will come out with, this is just other people who are helping and supporting in whatever way we can, with the masses of all of us and our team of people and our audiences, to work with the positive and the light to get things done. So that's just my 2 cents. But and I miss you guys. You guys are awesome.
Okay, Laura.
Yeah, I just really been focusing on just how we can, process these times, trying to just stay real in touch with individuals that are super inspirational about, what are the solutions, So I recently interviewed Dr. Shiva, and it was incredible. I mean, what he has set up in order to encourage people to be more proactive, so he's got different models and different systems, and I mean, his intelligence is incredible. But he was really raw and very transparent. So I helped to explain some things about RFK Jr. and his relationship, and some things had come out in the news, and people were a bit confused about it, not sure what to make of him, and also new revelations about the T-Man that it's going to be very hard for people to hear. But I'm not saying, oh, okay, whatever Dr. Shiva says. I was listening and appreciating all that he was saying. And I don't have a fixed opinion about it, but I was really understanding his point. But women like us and a lot of people out there, we're not just sitting back and expecting somebody to do it all or giving our power away. Maybe for some, that's the first step. or that's just something that they're used to doing. But, you know, people like us, we've been proactive for a long time. So anyway, it was interesting to just hear from him and all the information that he shared and brought forth, and some of the challenges that he's gone through. He helped to clear up some stuff that I think people, like I said, are confused about, and just exposing his program. So we did a share screen, and you went through his website. And so that's kind of like the latest as far as like, wow. And after the interview, it's just, I couldn't shut up about it. It's just like, Kevin's like, okay. Like, no, he was like, he listened to it too. We were just like, wow. I mean, it was just really cool. And yeah, I'm into just talking to people, even if I might not fully see eye to eye. I just want that information out there for people to discern, like Keryy said. And then today I got to interview Lee J. McCloskey, who's one of the most unbelievable artists, authors, actors. I mean, he's just incredible. And if anybody isn't familiar with him, I'm going to be, you know, publishing that. And he just really brought it back to just that place of, just going inward and just, you know, seeing the symbolism and seeing sort of the catalyzing nature of adversity. So he talked a lot about the fire that he was in. I mean, his whole house is like a living library. He's painted the whole upstairs in like 3D, like the whole goddess mythology and the Christ Sophia energy. And it just came through him. He has one of the most incredible tarot decks I've ever seen. It's in such incredible detail. So, you know, we go way back, you know, we're old friends. And I have a page of his on my website. I dedicated a page on cosmicgaia.org, and I have all his galleries and a good portion of his videos, not all of them. He's now putting out a whole bunch. And it just like really, really brought me back to center. It's what I really needed to hear. And he talked about the fact that his house almost burnt down along with many others in Malibu, and just talking to the fire and, you know, really like getting to know what the dark forces are trying to say. And he's really good at that. So applying that to what we're dealing with in humanity, as far as the masking, the mandates, and all this kind of stuff. And it was just like huge. So, you know, people that are really looking for inspiration, that are falling into maybe despair, that are just really not knowing how to navigate these times. These two individuals were really like incredible to talk to. And I'll be talking to Mike Adams, who I listen to every day with his situation report. And he's freaking hilarious. You know, some people are like, oh, he's so pessimistic, but I just love that he's real and he, you know, adds humor. So these have been some great people to, you know, connect with lately. But I don't really have like, I mean, I don't know if you guys have heard of Sonny Urban, but he's been dropping all sorts of stuff I haven't been able to figure out fully and completely about like Looking Glass Technologies, even things related to Project Pegasus. And I'll be talking to him, and you guys can look forward to that. I mean, in the audience, and just anybody who hasn't quite heard of him. And that's going to probably bring in more topics that are related to things going on behind the scenes. Kerry's brought a lot of attention to Project Looking Glass, talked to a lot of people that were involved in these kind of projects. So it's like been a really intense week. And sometimes I'm struggling through my own resistances. Like it's almost like too awesome to just, and I'm like, oh, I'm not feeling so good. And I've just been kind of emotional. And then the minute, you know, I get on the line with them and like folks like you, I'm just like, and I'm trying to keep that part of myself in check. So yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster emotionally. I mean, because it's madness out there. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Continuing the discussion along these lines, I wanted to touch on something that Robert David Steele released today that I thought was quite interesting about our military, and talking about how the military is, I put it on my my telegrams in case you're interested. And I'm just trying to pull it up here if I have it anymore. No, I don't. Okay, so, but at any rate, he said that fully a third, it looks like, of our military. And I think he said, he calls them flag officers. So I'm not a military person. I don't know the distinction, but I assume that's a high level officers, and that they are resisting coming forward with actually what's happening. So they don't want to talk to the people. They don't support it. It looks like they're not necessarily supporting Trump. They're not supporting the idea that there was even an election stolen. And I've got more to say on that. And they're also not willing to talk about the tribunals that are in theory going on and publicize that to the people. And they don't also want to tell the people that Biden isn't in control and that Trump still has the arm of the military behind him. So all of that we're kind of waiting on the edge of our seats to get announced is being stalled. And Robert David Steele made some very strong statements saying that the Pentagon is basically keeping a lid on this, and that it's tantamount to treason in our country, that if they're not willing to come forward and actually admit that we've had a stolen election, this amounts to treason and so on. So we're in a very strange place with that disclosure. And of course, we'd heard rumblings of that, but this is Robert David Steele is a former CIA officer. If you want to say anyone from the CIA is former anything, but at any rate, and he's still very much in touch with all of the levels. And I think he was also involved with I think it was Marines, but I'm not sure if I have that right. And I don't have his bio in front of me, but I've interviewed him a number of times. He's interviewed me a number of times. And so, people are aware of that. He sent Cynthia McKinney to the meeting we went to in Vegas, but she, as far as I know, I didn't actually get to meet her face to face. I don't think I saw her there, but I would think was only there for at least one day. I didn't see her after that, and I only saw her briefly myself, but maybe someone else can pitch in and see what.
I got to sit next to her in the movie. So she's freaking awesome. She's badass. Like, oh my God, I love her. Yeah, she's cool.
Cool. And so, I'd love to have her on my show. I have told Robert David Steele that, but it never happened so far. So then the other thing I want to touch on here is this voter fraud and the fact that this is the thing that's really crucial. We just lost Laura. Okay, good. So anyway, just want to say that I interviewed this guy named Stephan A. Schwartz, and I'm encouraging everyone to watch that interview. It's not going to be easy. It's not really, it's friendly enough, but the reality is that it's kind of a serendipity how it happened. I don't think he even knows at this point because we didn't really discuss it, but I had somebody send me I want to connect with you through, one of these websites out there. And I just say, yeah, fine. And then it occurred to me, oh, I know this name. This guy is a big guy in remote viewing. So then, of course, I reached out and said, do you want to do an interview? And he said, yes. But then I started investigating who he really was and found out that we weren't going to agree on anything because he publishes articles on a newsletter on a regular basis, anti-Trump. On top of it, he actually, during the interview, says to me, in no uncertain terms, that the election wasn't stolen. He thought it was the most honest, above board election we probably ever had. And, he comes up with some stuff that just would blow your mind. And this guy has a resume as long as your arm. He's worked for the Navy. He's worked for the government. He's supposedly a remote viewer. He's studied, and he says he created remote viewing with Ingo Swann and a few other people. I'm not sure, whatever. And, my questions just completely threw him off. He knew nothing about me. So I have to say he was completely, deceived or bamboozled or whatever. He just thought I was an alien from another planet, basically. And he's also, what interested me in part was when I found out that he'd written a book just recently, relatively recently, called Awakening, all about one alien and being rescuing an alien from he doesn't believe he said no underground bases. I mean, this guy really, seriously. And I'm trying to say, the reason I'm talking about this is because if you want to talk as the military about rescuing children and human slaves from underground bases, and you've got people out there, this is a highly educated guy. He's won ridiculous amount of awards, recognition all over the place, all in the major players and whatnot, and basically in denial about everything. No underground bases, no undersea bases, no, just complete, it's just unbelievable. And he really doesn't appear to be lying. In other words, he didn't appear to be somebody who's, falling back on a non-disclosure agreement that he'd signed or a security oath or any of that. So I just have to say that I wanted to bring this forward so that people in the Trump side understand what we're up against. If this a highly educated person can know nothing literally about any of the important topics that we really are, are dear to our hearts, so to speak, and have such a sort of wrong-ended view of things. This is a program person. This is a person who has, grown up in the system and believes in the system in spite of being, a mover and shaker in whatever ways he thinks he is, but not in maybe my way. And, so on and so forth. So, and then you have to go down from there. This guy is one of the old boys. He's part of the old boys. He's over in 60s. He's dedicated his life. He thinks he's an expert on consciousness, believe it or not. I mean, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about understanding the gap between the two sides, majorly two sides. And then, of course, there are many different divisions below that. But so that's a recent interview that I just did. And on the other side, I interviewed Scott McKay, and he's fabulous, and, Patriots Street Fighter. And we had a very good talk, and he said it was one of the most in-depth interviews he's given. So that was a compliment, I thought. And, so encourage you to see that. But so what do you have to say about any of that, or anything you want to contribute? Jen, go ahead.
Well, that is so interesting to me. I'll start out with that, because what I'm understanding, ladies, sisters, is that this is so immersed in spirituality. So when you look at the fact that we can manifest, I almost see it as moment by moment. And some people are on an old version of truth, in a sense. Like if somebody is an older, agent or something, it seems like maybe they can be compartmentalized and really have manifested some other timeline, in a sense. So maybe they're just way on, and it's truth to them, but it's not based in light truth. Light is energy. So, and information. So if they're getting light from the false light source, then it's easy to see how somebody could truly be deceived, especially if they come from a lineage of CIA. You all know I come from that. And you can truly believe, like literally, you can believe lies. And you can defend them, and you can find every kind of information source to justify, and also, you know what I'm saying, like really ground you in that foundation of deceit. So I think that when I hear you say that, I could see how that can happen. Some of those older agents, I mean, they're like Jesuits, and they're based in like Catholicism deeply, you know what I'm saying? And they come from these backgrounds, they're like foundlings, some of them don't even know their father and mother, you know what I mean? They're just really easy.
Well, this person is bloodline. I mean, they know their father and mother very well. In other words, just not to, interrupt, but just want to say, you got to watch the interview. You have to see that, what we're talking about here, because I appreciate what you're saying. I think it's very true. But this person is, in essence, for all intents and purposes, Illuminati, but considers himself not Illuminati. If you can look at it, it's kind of the Democrat paradigm, in a way, of denying what they're really a part of, and seeing it. It's really the opposite. It's the complete opposite of take what we see and know and so on. It just flip it around, and that's what they see. They see the complete opposite.
Exactly. It's inversion. It's complete inversion. And I can understand it from the research I've done on people like that. And even what I could have gone down these roads and literally had almost my truth manifested in a certain way.
Yes, I think that's true. Doctor, did you want to add anything else or say anything else, Jen, before we move on? You don't have to stay on this subject. You can also add whatever, if there's anything else you wanted to add.
Oh, no. I'd love to move on. I'd love to hear what everyone else has to say. Yeah.
All right, Sharnael?
So I got two things. I think going to Vegas was a huge wake-up call for me, because I live in my little world of doing stuff, and never wear a mask. And then I had to go over there, and, we were all sitting around eating, and they're like, excuse me, ma'am, you need to put your mask on in between bites and put your straw up underneath your mask and drink your drink. It's double masking for Laura here, and just, come on. And they have police around us all the time watching every little bit. So that was like, ooh. But today I had an appointment with a medical person, and when I got there, before I got there, I had my last appointment was a year ago, and she wanted to do all the mask stuff, and I was like, okay, I'll just talk to you when this is over. And thinking now after a year, that there would be some, because she's medical, right? So you think you're smart. And so, fast forward, I go set up an appointment. I know her personally, so we're texting this appointment through. And then I called her, and she's like, I was like, hey, how's it going? Good to hear your voice, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, yeah, and she said, we're just getting through. I think we're on the end of this, blah, blah, blah. And then she makes a comment and says something like, even when this is over, I'm going to keep with the mask stuff, because
Oh, shit.
she said, this is the 1 year I've never gotten a cold all year. And I kind of laughed at her because I thought she was kidding. So I literally laugh, and then she's not laughing. And so I was just like, okay. So I get there, and bless her heart, she had on 2 masks and the shield. She had on gloves, a coat, and she's using tongs to touch things.
Oh, no. This is first thing you're going to for your medical
She's using
advice.
tongs.
Oh, no.
I started crying, because that was like, I already had a few things today. And like Laura was saying, I haven't done, this is my first live since we came back from Vegas. I got a couple strikes, but also just processing. I was traveling a lot, and it hit or miss internet. Didn't want to set something up that I couldn't commit to, but also just like, I needed some time to, and it was, like she said, it was so exactly, Laura, like, I was like, okay, I don't want to get on here and like pretend and have a bunch of energy to try to put hope out there when I don't feel it. But then also, as soon as I got on here, I'm like, yeah, I feel so happy, and I'm happy to be here, and I find it again. But that for me, I started crying when I got in my room by myself, because I was like, so sad that literally I thought she was smarter than that. Like, where are the brain cells and what I think you're saying with the timelines in the sky, and just the dissonance of complete opposite. But the way that I have been able to like keep my brains about it somewhat, a little bit, not really, but kinda, is I was talking to Michael Jacob's wife, Tracy, and I love her analogy. She starts talking about this Netflix series that apparently came out, I don't know, a year or 2 ago, where you can sort of like pick the end. So if you pick something, then it leads you to this way, and then there's a different timeline. And then, or you could pick this other way and it has a different ending. I wish I could remember the name of it. Maybe you guys saw it, but this is exactly where we are. Because I was literally leaving from that today, and I was just like, it just landed on me. I was like, this is a moment-to-moment timeline war. I knew it has been the whole time, but that to me was exact evidence of in my face, like, literally, I think we're just one giant experiment right now. Like, we're in this experiment, and whoever, God, source, whatever, God, source is probably, rooting. We know the end game, it happens and we win. But it's also like, who's going to step up to the plate here? Like, who's actually going to do the thing that is required, the courage thing, the honor of the thing that's actually true. Because if she had made me put a mask on, I'd have been like, see you later. She didn't make me, and I didn't have that confrontation with her. I just, there's things that we have to do to stand up that fit with my cells on a truth level of not engaging or participating with the lying, because that's a lie to me. To be in it and to do it. It's my living with my life, lying with my life by participating in that timeline versus participating in the real timeline, which is good guys win and everything happens, you know, however that works out. But you're right. It's not like some dude. I've been saying this for a long time. We can't put everything on a person or Santa or Jesus or anybody. Like, we're the ones. This is Neo right here. We're all Neo, and we are the ones. So
Right.
every step, moment to moment to moment, is the only way. And every inside thing that we do is the way that we awaken others. It's not about trying to make anyone do what we want them to do, because otherwise we're playing their game of forcing external things to fit with our scenario. It's us moving from the inside out and allowing us and our inside job to awaken others as they go. So that's my 2 cents, but I'd love to hear Laura's 2 cents. 5 cents or $1 million cents.
Man, I love all the abundance of sense that you guys have to share. My goodness, so many things are coming up based on what everybody, shared. And it's that whole thing about, like, compromising oneself. Obviously in certain situations, it's like, okay, well, it makes sense because, like when we were in Vegas, we were approached sometimes, like, you need to wear this or we're not going to allow you here. But when I realized that I had an option when it came to Alaska Airlines, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'd rather rent a car. I can't breathe with double mask on, and I just kind of the word soapbox is kind of funny, but I couldn't help it. It's just like I kind of snapped, but I wasn't angry, I wasn't judgmental. It's just like it just felt like just kind of like what you're saying. There's certain things I just can't do. And it's like adversity and stress to me is a gateway, and even fear. If we can embrace those things and say, okay, what is it you're challenging me about? What is it you're trying to steal from me? What is it that you want from me? And when we form a greater dialogue with that, and we begin to understand it, I feel like we start to tap into our wisdom, our creative imagination, and we can be resourceful and inventive and find, a path that is way more in alignment with who we truly are. And we have the choice in all times to continue to move down that road. And when we do feel like we might have to compromise for whatever reason that feels worth it, we don't need to feel necessarily enslaved unless the circumstances, here's a bit of a showdown and a perfect example of how these compartmentalized forces are interfacing with each other. So going back to what you were talking about, Keryy, with this person. So if somebody's saying, no, this doesn't exist or that doesn't exist, it's like saying, oh, no, you didn't really get abducted. That's not a true story. It's like we need to have an open enough mind and enough humility to admit to ourselves there has been compartmentalism. There are things that are going to take us out of our comfort zone. And just because we haven't experienced it or because we haven't seen it, we don't need to take that away from anybody else. So we need to be willing to be a part of this greater dialogue, to be able to listen to each other, to be able to be a part of this greater conversation that can help one another determine what's real and what's not real, while also respecting the fact that there are going to be things that all of us experience that are going to be completely unique to ourselves. And diversity is the greatest blessing. Diversity and harmony to me is true oneness. That's how the web of life operates. That's what supports ecosystems. That's what is actually, what creates health. So when we can have a more open mind, we can begin to unlock what's dormant within us, and we can become more whole. So there's a difference between something factual, like, okay, there are underground bases because somebody, saw them or has pictures, or, it's obvious with, those that have researched enough to be able to, safely say, yes, absolutely. The amount of whistleblowers, the amount of experiencers, people that have been in these projects, super soldier programs, I mean, they all have this common thread. They all have these experiences, and it wouldn't be fair to deny them that, even if we haven't seen it. And then there's just sort of our creative imagination and our own unique creative expression, our own unique callings and, personal sort of mission that we bring to the table to synergize with one another so that we can put the pieces together and do amazing things together, which I feel we're doing. So I just feel like people need to be willing to listen to each other. And those that might immediately like put a mask on or immediately sort of like, comply, if they can be a little bit more flexible and open to hearing what we have to share without us feeling like we have to wake them up, because we don't, that they can, see, what is the making of a cabal member? What is the making behind a leader that literally has no problem like taking away your rights while manipulating you into thinking it's for your best interest? Can you be open to that kind of dialogue? And so when I see like right or left, I want to be open to, okay, what does the left have to say? And then it's like, okay, something's gone really kind of nuts here. But the principles that some of those ideologies used to rest upon are very different 10 years ago, 20 years ago than they are today. So I feel for the people that aren't quite seeing, you know, but there's corruption on both sides. So like in the Bush dynasty or other Republican, you know, party leadership systems that we've seen, you know, there's stuff to look at. So, I mean, I just think if people could just be willing to understand that compartmentalization, psychological operations, and certain tactics to keep us conquered and divided. So it's either we're vaxxers or anti-vaxxers, maskers, non-maskers, and we can begin to just appreciate the greater lesson here, which is to connect on a heart level, to give each other more mutual love and respect, and to be like, I'm not so fixated on a fixed belief that I can actually, you know, maybe have a good conversation with you instead of what they're trying to hook us into, which are these very triggering words. How can you possibly have a conversation with somebody when they're just using these terminologies of like white privilege or you know, it's like there's so much more to who we really are, and something's going to snap for each person in the growth period that is being instigated or catalyzed in them to begin to say, my heart is much bigger than this, and we can actually like treat each other with more mutual love and respect, and actually, you know, hear one another out. That it is not about the right or wrong so much. It's about, I respect what you feel is your truth, because that's what makes you healthy. That's what makes you inspired and joyful. Why would I want to take that away from anybody just because they live it differently than I do? So people like who Keryy interviewed, and anybody that we might come across, you know, it's if we could just get it to that level, and also be flexible enough within ourselves, which I feel, you know, we are, all of us, that we're really going to get somewhere. And that is what's going to help us to come together in sort of a unity consciousness kind of way. And it's going to cut the cords and the energetic codependency with the dark cabal and all those different players that are fooling us. I mean, it's just like supporting a friend breaking up with a narcissist or an abuser. But it's also like supporting us and how we feel so shunned and banned and censored that they might be like, yeah, that's messed up too. And then we can just be like, wow, actually we can be friends, even though you might follow this or be that, or, you know, it's like dropping the judgment and just really seeing the treasure of, you know, a little bit of laughter and a little bit of openness. You know what I mean? So.
I think well said. Well, I agree with that. You have to watch the interview to see how that transpired, whether or not there was any mutual respect. I don't think there was very much, but there was some. I can say that, you know, it's easier on my side, right? Because I knew who he was. I did investigation on who he was. So I was respectful within the fact that I was asking him, you know, adult questions that required adult answers. But what was kind of interesting was his emotional reaction to me was fascinating, because, you know, he kind of laughed, then he lost his train of thought and he got all discombobulated and he didn't know what he was saying. And then, you know, he wanted to start calling me names, but then he stopped, you know, so he had to go through a lot of changes in order to even deal with the interview. And to his credit, he actually made it to the end. You know, it wasn't super long or anything, but still. And, you know, he didn't prepare himself. Okay, you know, that's, if you go to an interview and you get interviewed by someone and they ask you questions, you're not prepared and you didn't do your homework. Well, you didn't do your homework, right? So you can't really protect yourself in that regard. Maybe he would have absolutely denied the interview altogether if he knew who I was. That's pretty much probably what would have happened, because he so threw out, like, it wasn't even a question for consideration. It was just like not even on the planet where you could consider it. So that's his world. So I agree with you on one hand, Laura, but on another hand, if we're going to inhabit the earth together, there is some things that we do need to sort of agree on, kind of basic things. And, you know, it's the kind of thing where I can't just turn my back if someone wants to be in denial of other people being tortured. It really all comes down to like we're back in the era of the Nazis, and they took the Christian, and I didn't say anything, and then they took the Jew, and then they took this one and that, that saying, and then they came for me. The bottom line being is that you need to speak up about what to be true, to be actually a reality in this 3D matrix that we're living in. And then we have to come to some conclusions about it, like the stolen election, let's say. So it's very interesting how, yes, there's the spiritual side, and most of us, I think, are very spiritually grounded. And I've got to tell you that this person thinks he's an expert in spirituality. I mean, he really does. So in his world, he believes that. He thinks he wants everything for the betterment of people, but he will say in the same breath, I asked him, you'll hear me in the interview, talk about Gates and Fauci, and the things they're doing are for the benefit of humanity, and so on and so forth. So you see, it's an interesting thing. It's all fine and good to say, okay, let's all get along. But in the end, if my sister, brother, whatever, person down the block is being kidnapped and tortured, and you're going to stand by and deny it's happening, you see, this is going to be an issue. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about someone like that.
Totally. I hear you. Keep going.
Yeah. So it's just that I'm just saying that that's where life is on planet Earth now. I think that when a lot of this stuff that we call sort of programming and Illuminati, basically control of the earth, that we are unearthing and have been unearthing now for years and years and years, and has all the information's coming out and the truth is coming out and so on and so forth, that as that comes to the surface, there's actually a colliding of worlds in which, some people can take that on board easily and believe it. I certainly could since day one when I came on the planet. Whereas other people, they absolutely can't take this stuff on board. And it's going to be part of the future going forward as to how are these people. There is a sense that, yes, we don't have, that, like Tony Robbins said, the death certificate, the death statistics are exactly the same as prior years. Okay, that's actually ones that everyone will agree on. So in essence, but nobody died of cancer, nobody died of heart disease, but all the statistics went over to COVID. But in essence, those statistics are all the same as every year. So if you can get onto that page. And so then you're having to look at the situation as that, okay, well then, if that's where we're at, then they went through all these permutations and locking down and not going to work and bankrupting people right, left, and center, and small businesses are out that don't exist anymore, and what I'm saying, and so on. But actually, there was no real tragedy. Now, the tragedy may be postponed. As Sharnael was saying in the beginning, we may be facing a sort of a zombie apocalypse with these people who have literally, like in Texas, they were boasting on an article that I post onto my Telegram saying, they're so proud of themselves. They've vaccinated something like 100,000 people all in one day. And I'm like, oh my God. And what this really is it is not solving it is not a vaccine, because they've never isolated any virus, so-called virus. And so then you have to look at it, well, what is it? It's gene therapy. This is what the doctors are saying, which means it's a nice way of saying they're going to genetically re-engineer your DNA with mRNA and scions or psyox or scions or whatever they call those things, and so on. In other words, and there's AI, nano AI, which I've done several interviews with Cyrus Parsa, who's something of an expert on that, and so on. So we know it's a bioweapon. There's tons and tons, I mean, as an investigative reporter, tons and tons of evidence of this. Okay. So they're vaccinating you against, and then of course, Fauci says, oh, wait, you still need a mask and you still need to do all these things. So in essence, it's not going to do anything for you except change your DNA, link you to the Borg. And what happens down the line, Miles Johnson, I did an interview with him. He thinks 3 months. He thinks we've got an incubation period for this vaccines that are happening. And then in about 3 months, we're going to begin to see the fallout. The people that, can no longer drive straight on a road. They can't have a conversation. They're kind of like Biden and they forget where they're talking about, in mid-speech and so on and so forth. And maybe it'll be small things. On the other hand, maybe these people will just, drop dead at our feet. I mean, 6 months, 3 months, who knows what. So this is, we are actually at the verge. We are, yes, an experiment. A huge experiment has been taking place on the entire world for the past year and a half. We've all witnessed it. We're all on different sides, perhaps, or whatever, some on one side of the experiment, some on the other. But nonetheless, and there's also the thing that, how do you know that these vaccinated people, when you get into a room with them and most of the people around you are vaccinated, that the vaccine, that what they're vaccinated against won't just multiply, self-replicate since it's AI and jump on you, and a mask isn't going to matter at all. Then it didn't matter now and it doesn't matter then. But nonetheless, because humans have a way, we have a field of resonance. That's what it means. See, if we have a field of non-vaccinated people, then vaccinated people might be actually healed. But the reverse is also true, okay, in which the complete opposite could happen. So we're really looking at a future that has is not predictable, in a certain sense at all. And this is what's in, I don't mean to be, so negative here, but I think it's important. I think we are on the verge, and these people are lining up, like this person I interviewed, lining up in droves. I heard some neighbors talking about how they'd gotten the vaccine and how they were so happy to go get the second one. I mean, no idea whatsoever there's a threat. And we living this now. This is a life-death thing, for us and our children. Okay, Jen.
Well, speaking to the issue of the vaccines and the masks, because it can't be overstated about these things. I know some people are sick of hearing about the masks, but I try to encourage people, no, we have to continue these conversations because this is by far the biggest psyop that's been, perpetrated on humanity. And, I have been anti-mask the whole time. And for me to stand as a nurse almost a year plus without wearing a mask, can you imagine? When I was in New York, I resisted. And one of the things I told people is that it's an energetic frequency. It really is. I said, I do not consent. And I would just put that out in the atmosphere. And like you ladies are saying, everything is about, like what I'm hearing, it's about this oneness, consciousness. If we all come on board with this pro-life, I'll say, pro-truth, pro-health and wellness and sovereignty, because this is all grounded in sovereignty. And to govern someone is to govern your ment, your mind. And if we give consent over to be governed by anybody, it could be a group of any kind of tyrant and fiefdoms, you know what I'm saying? Is that once we go inside, because the only way out is in, and when we decide that we are sovereign, that takes courage to say I'm sovereign, because most people would love to have a nanny, whether they want to admit it or not. You want an assistant, right? Everybody would love a wife, right? Somebody just make it easier, mommy. So when you take the bold stand of sovereignty, that means you're responsible for your health. And when you think about it, I can't get away from the health and wellness aspect to any of this, because it's your body. And if you have agency over your body, you do not give agency to another person. And so if you live and you vibrate on that type of energy, I believe it keeps you away from these sort of, they're like, they're not even human to me. When I look at people right now, I'm not sensing a soul. And they go along with the mask and they love the mask. I've seen every type of mask you can imagine. I didn't know that people would slide into a love to, broadcast that they are compliant. I didn't think I'd see this in people. So I've had to adjust my expectations of humanity because, like you're saying, Sharnael, oh, they're smart people. Yes, they are smart people. They're degreed. They're, diploma, certified. They're all these kind of whatever after your name. And it doesn't mean that the intelligence is the kind of quantum intelligence, the emotional intelligence, because half of these people, if they didn't have a television, they wouldn't know that there was a pandemic, would they? They wouldn't know that you had to wear a mask. They wouldn't know to fear if they didn't have this device that's telling them to fear. So it's grounded in these energies of fear and love, the polarity. So I see this whole mask thing. This is, to me, and I've told people, I try to encourage them, this is the simplest thing we can do. And we are not going to have a savior come down and say, the mask days are over. We're not getting a person that can do that, because think about it. Who has the authority to do that? We have authority individually. So if we combine in this oneness collective of saying, no, we're not participating, we do not give our consent to this, that's how this will stop. But I've tried to stop people from doing it. I've tried to encourage them. Back in September, they had a let's burn our mask thing. I put a video of me burning a mask. I didn't get much, it just like fizzled out. People are not ready. And when I go out to the supermarket, I walk in. Nobody says anything to me. So I'm thinking, if you're living in one of these more red states, why am I seeing so many masks? You can walk in, they won't challenge you. So it shows me that people are not willing to take agency of their body. That's the whole thing, because that's why people are screaming for things like universal health. When I'm over here screaming, everybody grow your own farm, use your food as your medicine. How about that? You don't have a doctor. I personally don't have a doctor. I'm 55 years old. I'm a Black woman, they say, and I don't take any pharmaceuticals. Do you know, when I interface with anyone in the medical profession, they are offended at me that I'm saying I'm not on pharmaceuticals. They're like, you're not on blood pressure medicines? You're not on this? You're not a diabetic? It's like, so like I'm a unicorn, okay, in other words. That should have never become commonplace, okay? We agreed to this. We gave consent to this madness. And in terms of even just moving forward, I see this as we take our power back individually. We go out encouraged and we say, no, I don't consent. And after a while, I'm willing to live with the consequences. I'll just say that. But the way I'm vibrating, I don't even envision consequences, because I'm living in truth and beauty and in the light. And I don't see, like, they don't vibrate where I'm vibrating. So how are they going to affect me? So in a sense, that's where I am on the mask and the vaccine thing. I want to share with you, sisters, that I get so many recruiters coming at me. As you can imagine, I've been a nurse for over 30 years. So lately, this is the new thing. Check this out. A vaccine nurse. They are, oh yeah, they're trying to get nurses to work at vaccine clinics. Did you all know this? So they're trying to give lots of money. Come and work at this vaccine clinic. And my thing is, I'm just gonna say this. I have never given a vaccine in my 30 plus years of nursing. I never wanted to do that to anyone. For some reason, I always had a call that I knew these were bad. My grandmother got polio from the polio salt tablet. So I knew what it did to her health. She was a vibrant woman and her health was demolished. So I never vibrated with the whole vaccine thing. So I've never given them. I've always found a way. Like when patients are admitted, they always want you to go down this assessment. Are you going to take the pneumonia thing? Are you going to take the flu shot? Are you going to take this shot? And then when I ask the people, I say, you know, you can say no. And they go, oh, okay, no, I don't want it. So I had found a way never to give them. So, you know, nurses have to stand up, and other professions that, you know, like we were flying and, you know, we saw all the tyrants, the little mini tyrants that work in the airline industry, many tyrants that work in travel and tourism. These people have to stand up and know that they can say no, lose your job. I mean, what, you're going to just sit here and violate people for a job? So some people know that they're doing wrong. They have to stop it. I'm not nursing anymore because I can't go along with the lies. I can't do it. And guess what? The universe, God, finds another way to sustain you. But you have to believe, you have to consent. And that's my bottom line.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. Okay, Dr. Sharnael.
Yeah, I was supposed to take, so my clinic flooded in 2016, and I've kind of just been doing the teaching thing, but I was supposed to take a job at a clinic. The Wednesday, I took the job that Wednesday, and Friday, I hadn't quite moved in. I was going to move in that Monday, and Friday is when they did the mask thing. So I was just like, oh, well, I'll just wait till this thing kind of calms down because I'm not going to, you know, and then it's been a year. So I get the whole thing because I'm just not going to do it. And also worked with some people on a research project in January before all this went down, and with 1,114 doctors worldwide on a research project that we've all kept up with each other, and a lot of them a lot of them have either quit or gotten fired because they don't want to do the lying situation with, you know, like, yes, there is a real virus and it's called the flu. And also we, you know, the tests and just the whole spin of everything like we've been talking about. But I wanted to just piggyback on what Jen was saying about the fad of it all, you know, how they got like Gucci and everybody else making these cute masks and stuff. So now it's like a trendy thing where it's like, seriously. But so that thing is a little bit, but one thing that I will say is positive is when I just did a cross country trip, I foster animals and work at a couple shelters as another job. I have like a bunch of things I do, but this is another thing. But so we brought a dog up to Seattle, and on their way there, they had a mass burning thing in Idaho and Utah. Now we didn't get to see it. I wish I would have. That would have been freaking awesome. I would have had that all over the internet. But we found out about it like when we got to the hotel and we were staying there that night. I was like, oh my gosh, they had a thing tonight over and so. We drove right past it. I was like, oh man, but that was exciting for me and encouraged me that there's people that are like getting over it and actually, you know, getting together and organizing things like this. Of course, on this trip to Mississippi, Iowa, and Texas let their mandate go away. The governor finally stood up, and I know Montana did. What that means, really, who knows, because Florida's never had one, and there's still the counties and certain box stores that don't give a crap what a governor says, that they're going to do whatever the freak they want to do, which is so stupid and retarded because it's like, just don't even get me started. But when I went through Texas on the way home, I was so happy because, like Jen, I don't wear a mask. I'll walk in every store and, you know, they're going to have all the signs and stuff and I don't care. And no one says anything to me. I've had a couple times, the whole year, I've had like twice anyone ever said anything to me. And I was just like, okay, bye. And I just leave. But so I walk in, you know, all these gas stations, you know, and Brian would go in sometimes or me, whatever. I'd be like, did they say anything? You know, just wanting to know, like, what the vibe is before I go in the bathroom or get a drink or whatever. And basically no one said a word in any place we went, and we never wore one. And but when Texas, we walked in, and I literally started crying. I was so happy because when we walked in, not only was not a single person wearing a mask anywhere at this one gas station, but all the workers too. Like even the workers, because like the hotels, no one was wearing them except the people behind the desk at this one specific hotel we were at. Which, you know, whatever, it was cool to see faces and smile, you know, but then when we hit the gas station the next day, literally even the workers were walking around, and I saw their little name badges and realized, oh my God, you work here and you're not wearing it. And I literally almost hugged this lady because I was like, it's so good to see your face. I just said it out loud. I was just like, I'm so happy. And she was like, do I know you? And I'm like, no, but I mean, I see your face and I'm so happy. It just tears were streaming down, and, you know, get to the thing to check out, and they're not. It was like 4 checkouts, 0 people. And I was just like, oh my God, it feels like a second of normal, you know? So to go from, you know, Vegas with straws and like literally police, you guys, we saw like 3
We had cops in the bars. Yeah.
3 cops literally standing on the side of our table, you know, just waiting for anyone to like bring it down for a minute. That wouldn't be in between a bite, you know.
They did that in Vegas. Anyway,
Yeah.
keep going.
I know. I was there with you. It was just like we've seen it. Oh, there's physically cops standing there. But so that's the thing. I wanted to say too, it's not just the dissonance in the masks and the vaccines. So although I just found out yesterday that FedEx, if someone tests positive, they get paid $30,000. They get leave and they get a $30,000 check. I just found that out yesterday from someone who works there, who would not lie to me. That I'm really, no, but that happened. But the dissonance is also in the kids with the children thing. Now, Laura and Jen and I got like from noon when we saw the show with Jim Caviezel, the amazing movie Sound of Freedom. But when it was over, we stood around like little baby birds, the 3 of us, from 3 o'clock to 9 p.m. I think we took like a 10-20 minute break and came back, or Laura went somewhere and came back. But Jen and I were just like, keep talking, you know, because he was like, love on like the vibration of this man is not normal in the highest form of compliments. He's just like literally you feel the vibration of his authenticity of love. Love oozes out of this man. And he is so awake. But he's been working with Tim Ballard since Katrina. And he said, number one, if anyone comes to you and says, you know, here's the links to Hillary's laptop if you want to see what's on there, he said, do not take that bait. You'll never unsee what he, because he saw it. And he's like, you'll never unsee it. And he's saying this like almost shaking, tears. And also, going into the whole weather coordination of fake weather to steal the kids. Katrina, Haiti, you know, Texas that just happened, like not just to upset the apple cart for food, but control, and also stealing the children. Like 8,500 kids were taken from this bomb that they just blew up in the dumps of Beirut. What was it, like 9, 10, 12 week time is like not a thing anymore, but you know, we saw it on TV and it was like just there for a few minutes. Oh, I wonder what's going on. And then it was gone. You didn't hear anything about it. But because of his ties with Tim and all the different things that they've been doing to get these kids out, 8,500 kids were taken out of that dump over there. And I mean, so, but you tell people this and most of them are just like, huh? Like, they don't think that, you know, everyone, okay, some of them, I don't want to say everyone, a lot of people actually don't believe that it's true. And he said that these kids out of this particular one were half eaten, organs missing, just the worst conditions you can possibly, you know, he's saying this like I'm talking like I'm normal right here, like I'm not upset about it, but I'm pissed about it is what I am, because I went through all the stages of, like I said, just processing the information that we got that weekend, and it just, and now it's anger. Now I'm just mad about it. But so, you know, that's a little bit for me, kind of like just, you know, fixed weather conditions, engineered, which they've been doing that since Montauk. They were sending out the frequencies of the satellite, and it would snow in the middle of nowhere, or the people were zombieing in by the droves, or wild animals would show up. I mean, I think it was 400 megahertz that they were shooting out to make people do, and we got 5G everywhere. So, but I think it's John Here and Now on Twitter. He posted something March last year with a cool thread that was like, boom, 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 all of these things. And then thank God we don't have 5G, which he was being sarcastic, because all they got to do is turn it on there. And then whatever is in the operation system of what they've put in after the 4 boosters that do all the proteins that will sync us up to the board, not me, but people, whoever, and then why does the CDC have a zombie apocalypse link to get people to make sure they understand how to handle when they try to come after us and eat our bodies or whatever they're going to do? Because, and this is all in the 100th series that's either on Amazon or Netflix. They go into super soldiers, people underground, stealing the kids from up ground to bring them into the ground to take their blood, to live off their blood. They go into keeping the people on Earth in divided ways, so they're fighting each other all the time, so they can sneak the kids down with no one thinking. They just think that the other people did it, or they're just so busy fighting each other that they don't realize what's going on.
What series? You're talking about a series on Amazon called what?
The 100th series, or the 100, but it goes into AI, the chip, forcing people to take the chip, is this fiction or is this documentary? This is supposed to be fiction. They got to tell us, right? But this is from like 2007. I'm only on season 3. Wow. At the beginning, they just started, I'm like, oh my God, super soldiers, that's on there. Oh, and the taking of the blood.
Send me the link, or I'll look for it, but send me the link, because I'll put it on my Telegram to alert people.
Yep. So, I mean, that's not, I will say this too, going cross country, I found out that I'm an excellent audio book DJ, because we had 80 hours. And so I was like, what do you want to listen to? We've listened to this a little bit, and now we get tired of that voice and we try on different books. But I listened to 2 of Trump's books, and also Sarah Huckabee, God Bless America. This book that she did, speaking for herself. I cried, I laughed, I could not stop. I'm actually listening to it all over again. But the other 2 I've listened to before or read, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like I was reading it all over the first time and just getting into his head and going, well, if he thinks about this then, and then, and then, and then, and then, and all these situations that works, I was like, then why would he be any different now? He's, da, 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 da. It was so awesome, so encouraging, and I did not think I could love him more, and I was wrong, because now it's just even more. But he's an amazing person, and I don't care what anybody says. Bam, that's it.
Okay, Laura, go.
Oh, it's so incredible listening to you guys. And I didn't mean to interject and be like, oh, that's not what I meant, because I know it was just opening up such an important part of this greater dialogue, as far as no, we don't need to just maintain getting along. We need to, and women like us we need to just be resources, and we can just hand things to people. And yes, we all do interviews, and we make ourselves available for people to be able to say, hey, I'm curious about that. And sure, they might put their comments in and might be doubtful or not really resonating, or almost in fear of it. But it's the same thing that we're seeing with the narratives that are being steered and the different things that people are being asked to do. But yet each individual is going to relate to it in a different way. So one person wearing a mask might be wearing it because they can feel these ascension codes and these really activating forces coming in. They might be kind of afraid that they're going to start to speak truth and might start to activate family members. So maybe for them, it's comforting to wear a mask. For others, they might just be like, all I feel is fear, and whatever you tell me, and I'll stand first in line to get that jab. And yes, I'll put 3 masks on, whatever you say. And then you got your other ones like us that are just like, I'm sorry. Nope, not going to do it. It's very, very hard to look at it. I mean, it literally is so hard to look at. But then when I drop how it just sort of kind of triggers me. It's not like I overly tune into somebody's energy field, but I'm like, you're dealing with what's going on in the world in a different way than maybe the person standing next to you in line. And maybe there's a lot of people in the sphere of those that feel, okay, well, I have to shop and they're making me do this, that are just like, this is BS. So I told, Kevin, I'm like, I wanted to come up with like masks that if I have to wear, which I refuse. So we're not going to do this, because that's why I couldn't fly home, because I was willing in Vegas just to hang out with you awesome people. And yes, Jim Caviezel and the whole weekend was just like mind-blowingly awesome. But it's just like, you just want to put like, F this. I don't want to cuss and drop F-bombs, but like, this is, and it's just like, you really think and I'm like, no, let's not waste our time on that. Cause it just proves the point that I don't want to go there or wear that. And I love what all of you have shared so much. And Jennifer, and just, the sovereignty, the determination to not kind of sell out, because you're allowing yourself to be duped to the point where you go into a survival feeling, and it's all about, well, even if this goes against my greater integrity or principles, I'll still do this to get a paycheck. And then you got the others, or just like what I was trying to say with the difference between how people handle the mask. You're going to get a lot of that in different professions. There's going to be that one person that's like, oh no, yeah, this is of service to humanity. You're going to get another person that says, yeah, I know these aren't really good, but I don't want to lose that paycheck, and I'm a little bit concerned and worried. And that's going to create a bit of karma and some backlash in their soul journey to comply and give themselves over to it. And then you got, people like you that are bold and brave enough to say, the organic ascension timeline and how we experience it on a sovereign level is not asking us or agreeing. I mean, this is our higher mind and our connection with source, with us compromising ourselves. This is where the warriorship comes in, that says, I'm creative enough. I have a greater trust in myself and the universe and source energy, God, goddess, how everybody, or anybody relates to it, to say, I refuse to do this. And that's when the true nature of reality, I feel, shows up for us. This other one is just based in how can we cord into your lower mental energies, your traumas on an emotional level, your survival chakra, and your fear of not having currency or money in your world, to the point where you begin to lose yourself. So we do witness, and we are seeing people really starting to disconnect from the soul matrix, where this is the grandest opportunity right now on earth, which to me is, an experiment for sure, but also a great test. What is the experiment? Are we going to choose God source, true creator being in our lives, being a co-creator, a multidimensional being connected to the planetary grid network, the true one? Or are we just going to be caught in the inversion matrix system that is keeping our scrambled fire codes that they call junk DNA, constantly activated, to the point that we become genetically modified, to the point of, some of the beings that we have researched, like the Greys and even the tall whites. And just where one thing used to be something and now it's not anymore. So it's like linear timelines we know don't really exist. So I guess to try and make a point here, it's a major experiment, but it's also an incredible test, because we have a choice to really participate in the true intention that something much more unconditional and loving wants to see for us. But then these lower creator gods, the fallen Anunnaki, fallen angelics, and Draco, reptilian agendas, black sons of Belial, are like, no, you're going to experience it like this instead. And this is, we're just going to manipulate you and mess with you. And so this is our chance to say, it's time to get a divorce. I'm done. Because it's the difference between hanging on to a partner, and I sound redundant to myself, but it's the difference between having a partner that's using you, abusing you, who's narcissistic, who will not listen to you, to saying, you know what, I deserve better. I'm made of much more than this. And then experiencing soulmate relationships, twin flame union, the Christ Sophia template within ourselves that literally can neutralize these dark weapons and literally inspire people when you look at them in their eyes. where they give you the time of day. So those are the kind of greater conversations I was thinking about, but never not being a resource. I mean, you can only like desperately cry out, like, please just listen, you know? It's like when my father got the jab, I was in such a depression and I still kind of am, but I'm like, you know, I'm like, I'm not going to limit myself to this thought form thinking like, oh, it's irreversible, or, oh, now I'm going to watch him die, or he's going to visit soon. And I'm like, I got a bunch of ammunition here. What if he turns into a zombie? It's like, I can't believe I'm thinking about this stuff. And I tried to warn my family members and this and that, but I was like, well, you know, there's that fine line. It's like, am I going to lose them? Are they going to ostracize me? And like, you know, and it depends like on the dynamic at the time and what we do in the here and now. But yeah, so I'm going to kind of leave it at that, but I love what you shared, Keryy, and how you just kind of like, you know, I mean, cause you're such a hardcore, I mean, all of you women are like, I love hanging out with you. It's like, I'm like literally going to miss you guys when we get off this call. It's like, I'm listening to y'all and I'm just like, yes. But, so I do think that people are experiencing it all differently. It's sort of, the way people, so I like to be flexible and open enough to, you know, not lump everybody who seems to be complying as, oh, you're just sheeple and you don't get it. It's like if I can make eye contact, sometimes I see a confused, broken soul who's just like, what is going on here? And like, I'm about to lose my livelihood, and hope to God they run into people like you, Jennifer, and the step that you took. And this is like the intention behind the subscription thing that I have. I'm trying to help people feel the courage to step away from those jobs and careers that are asking them to really go against the next level that they are about to step into, that will also help them to really be a true healer, light worker, like you saying, now I'm a light worker, I'm not a nurse anymore. To give them that option through love and kind of, you know, maybe toning down like, oh, the MAGA or the, you know, because then they might be afraid of that because they haven't quite grokked what that's all about. So they might be like, oh, I don't want to talk to them. They're a conspiracy theorist. Oh, they're a Trumper. And it almost like, oh, we might lose a lot of people. And that's a fine line, because at the same time, I'm like, I want to support something that I feel is really important. So we have to, I think, and I'm going to end here in just a sec, embrace the fact that we're going to approach how we navigate this human experience, not necessarily in the same way every day. I feel like it depends on the individuals in front of us. What are they willing to hear? Where are they just like going to end up like hating you and persecuting you if you know, share too much? But at the same time, there's no backing down. There's no backing down. And that's why it's just like, I feel so at home with you guys, because, you know, you've been like, I'm just like, when I start to kind of dip down into just like despair or just, and I just like see one of your feeds or this and that, I'm just like, I'm right there with you guys. But I do feel like, yeah, everybody's responding in a different way. It's like we could all go to a festival together, and the people we run into and the synchronicities aren't all going to be the same. But where do we have to be careful when it drops into a predator showing up? Somebody might want to steal your kid. No, we are not going to be silent. So I'm really glad that you amplified that point, because yeah, there's no way. I mean, and I don't want to be like martyrish, but like I have no fear of death. I know it's a lot easier than what we're dealing with here. I'm not suicidal, but I'm willing, and just like you guys, willing to put my life on the line to, you know, protect these children. And that's why this weekend was so powerful, because we got Jim Caviezel, we got 107, we got two major films, The Sound of Freedom and The Called, Something About a Perfect Day. And I'm just so grateful, or I don't know, so just, it feels so natural too that those that knew they needed to be there showed up, even if they had like 2 days to prepare. So I'll leave it at that. But I mean, I just get so impassioned, and sometimes I feel like, you know, I need to just like go in a cabin somewhere. It's like, because I get real loud sometimes, and yeah, I really freaked out at the airport, but I didn't want to do it from judgment or rage. I'm just like, that's why people don't want to go grocery shopping with me, because they know sometimes, you know, not gonna, you know, and it's not judgment like, oh, you're so stupid for wearing a mask, you sheeple. It's more like, here, have this card, have this link, check out these people's videos, you guys, you know, welcome to this greater world, and it's not a soapbox thing. I was never a soapbox person, but I guess, I've probably fallen off the soapbox, like, whoops, because whatever. Like, on a ground level, it's just like eye to eye, soul to soul, spirit to spirit. It's just like, it's heartbreaking. And so trying to find balance. And anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Okay.
Should I do this in this situation or do that? But then I tend to not overthink it, and I tend to just do what I do. And, and I just, everything I'm sharing, I know you guys, have a likeness with or a resonance with, and it's not like we're all the same. We do it all differently, but I swear to God, when we all gathered in Vegas, I was just like, that was a high point besides those other high points, being able to connect with you guys. And I've known Keryy and Dr. Sharnael for a while, but Jennifer, Eason, getting to know you is, man, unbelievable. And we're friends on Facebook with my new account. And man, all of you, just you're unstoppable. I love it.
All right. Thank you so much. This has been going on quite a while, so we're going to have to close it down. I got to be doing something. My dog's going crazy and so on. So want to say thank you very much for joining us today. And I hope this went out over Facebook, but I haven't had time to check. So we will actually, I will edit it at my end, just put on, disclaimers and things like that, and then put it out in mine, and everyone else can put it out on their channels and whatnot. So, so I hope we've raised some interesting points of conversation here, things to think about. I certainly have felt that way when I'm listening to everyone here. And yes, it was a delight to meet everyone in person. So amazing. Of course, I met Laura in person, but everyone else. And I just want to say that, I think there was a really, we had a great foundation. I think we are a great foundation. And in, sort of a level at the event in which we kind of were able to kind of move in this sort of circle in which we crashed the Republican event together and caused a few waves and whatnot. And, so it was fun and I enjoyed it. I think other people enjoyed it. Anyway, so, okay. Thank you very much for being here, everyone. And it's a delight. And, onward and upward, there's, I think we are the answer to the question. And so I think that's what matters. And it's a joy to know all of you. And thank you so much, everyone listening to this, blessings and lots of love from us. And,
Thank you.
Bye. Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you, Keryy. Thank you, Jennifer and Dr. Sharnael. Love you guys. Good night.
Bye, guys.